Hey everyone, this is Keith Schleicher at Origins for Gaming Trend and Tabletop Throwdown, and I'm here with Sean Brown of Mr. B Games, and we are going to take a look at a game right now on Kickstarter. It is Days of Ire, Budapest 1956. So Sean, what's the objective of the game here?
So in a nutshell, to give it a brief rundown, Days of Ire works on some similar principles of other games that we might know. So the Soviet player plays a very similar hand like they would in maybe a Twilight Struggle or a Labyrinth type of game, right? So the cards are dual purpose, right? So I might have something like, if it's red, it would be really good for me. I could play it for this to get the command points, or I could play it for the really good text in the event. Or I sometimes might draw cards that are really good for the revolutionists, and I could use it for the points up here, but then I must play the text, which is good for you. The other option I have is, of course, I could just discard it if it was really bad and I didn't want you to have it. So that's kind of how their mechanic or how their action works in the game, which is kind of nice. The key struggle is these locations out here that you see with some of these starting events. Basically, the revolutionists, the boys of Budapest, are trying to make sure that there are less than 4 of these events on the board, and the Soviets are trying to get as many of these. They're trying to get more than 4 on the event for them to win. There's also 2 other minor ways that you could win that rarely come up, but you could knock somebody's morale way down, one way or the other, and somebody could win over a morale victory, basically.
So what's the gameplay like?
So like the Soviets are almost doing this Twilight Struggle type of game, whereas the revolutionists have to work together to travel around all these different locations and solve all of these events. And in the process of doing that, they can trade with each other. They get all these different cards, which are kind of nice in their hand, and some of them give them a choice where they can use a radio or food or health, but they only get one of them. And then amongst each other, they can trade these cards because, as you can see here at the university, they need 1 radio and 3 food to remove that crisis from the board. So it's a nice little mechanic where they kind of cooperate to trade and solve all these issues coming up.
So it's a 1 versus many game.
Right. But what's cool is if you play the game 2-player, 1 player plays the revolutionists and they get multiple actions. If you play it as a 3-player game, then 2 people play the revolutionaries. And you can also play it as a 4-player where 3 of them play. And then also there's a Zukov deck, which is pretty cool, which allows for solo play.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it actually allows for co-op play for multiples, where you could have the Zukov deck play the Soviet side, and then 2 or 3 people could play as the revolutionists, which is kind of a cool twist.
Yeah, that's very cool. So up to 4 players then?
Yeah, up to 4, yeah.
And how much, this is on Kickstarter right now?
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter currently. I'm not sure. I think there's 40, I'm not positive on the puzzles. I think there's a $49 and a $52 level, like an early bird if there's still some openings or whatnot. And we haven't set the MSRP yet because they haven't gotten the final production costs or anything like that. But it's definitely a pretty good deal, pretty reasonable shipping, and some pretty good companies out there. And we'd love to have you guys support.
Do you know what the timeline is for expected delivery?
I believe the campaign we got it listed as like a December, January. As like an estimate. We may have even said that it's more of like a February, March of next year, but I think we're going to try really hard to get it to like December, January.
We all know with Kickstarters, there's always things that can come up, and things that you can't predict for, but I feel like they have been getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we even said something to the effect of maybe that we'd have the game ready in April or something, but I mean, we're going to target the holiday season, but I think we actually tell people on the page it's much later than what we're really trying.
So just search for Days of Ire on the Kickstarter page and it'll bring you right up to it.
Yeah, and it's good probably for another, by the time you're seeing this, probably just a few days left in the campaign.
Okay, and how long does the game typically last?
What's really nice about it is the learning curve's pretty easy, so once you know the rules and get it all set up, your first game's probably not going to be more than 90 minutes, and future games are going to run right around an hour.
Cool.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, a little bit of political intrigue, and but a lot of cooperation there.
Absolutely.
Cool. And now we're here again with Sean to talk about Prospectus, which is not quite available yet, but should be available by Gen Con, correct?
Yeah, actually by the time you see this video, it should be available in stores. So.
Cool. So what's the objective of Prospectus?
So Prospectus is a kind of a fantasy, I don't want to use the word stock market game, but I'll call it a stock market game. If you don't like stock market games, it's a really cool fantasy game. If you like stock market games, it's a really cool stock market game.
So, how does it play? I see a whole bunch of gems here, or cubes?
Yeah. So what's going on down here is in the caves we've got all these fantasy creatures, and they're all working. So what's cool is over here is all blue cubes are actually piles of owl tears collected fresh at the source. Bottled at the Rocky Mountains, right? Fresh owl tears. And then over here you got a troll running on a treadmill, and we're bottling his purple sweat. So that's troll sweat. Over here we throw a bunch of frogs into a big giant blender, and we got frog juice. Down here we got a bunch of pixies, and we collect their dust, and that's pixie dust. And last but not least, my all-time favorite, goblin pee. So the idea of all of these things is that we're wizards, and we're trying to learn the craft of making spells and potions. And those are all the ingredients we need to make the potions. And what's going on is we want to try to earn the most money and impress everybody in the High Council so that we can maybe become a wizard too. And so we're going to do that by showing them how smart we are with all of our cool ingredients. So one of the things that's going on in this game is every turn you're going to execute something from a stock market here. And what's going on with this execution is it tells you that we're going to take one blue cube, one yellow cube, one purple cube, 3 pink cubes, and 2 green cubes. And we're going to take those cubes and we're going to throw them in this cube tower. This is our crystal ball. This is where we're going to kind of see the future. So because we're novice spell makers, we're not quite perfected at it yet. So what's going to happen is we're going to throw all this in here, and this is going to really manipulate the prices of the stock. I'm sorry, not stock, they're ingredients in a fantasy medieval world. Unless you like stock games, and then we're manipulating stock. Anyway, so we're going to throw these in this cube tower, and then we're going to go down this chart to see what happened when we cast. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to see what came out. So you might have noticed before I did that, there were some cubes already stuck in there, and that sometimes can skew the odds one way or the other for you, which is kind of cool. So the first thing you're going to do is look at the price of blue. One blue came out, and it says the price of blue is going to go up for every blue cube that came out. Well, only one came out, so it goes up by 1. And then we saw price of yellow. Yellow's going to go down because there's a red arrow, so yellow goes down by 1. No purple came out. It said 1 was supposed to come out, but that's where the spell got a little funky, and purple price would have gone up, but no purple came out. It said 3 pink were going to come out, only 2 did, so the price goes up by 2. And finally it said 2 green would come out, 2 green did, and the price of green goes down by 2. And now you would have the option to buy more ingredients. So the idea is you're kind of speculating. By looking at the future card, you're going, I think I know what to buy because I think I know what's going to happen with the price. And a lot of times it totally doesn't go the way you want it to. And the other cool thing you can do in the game is everybody has a theme deck of spells. And those spells all do different things for you. And what's cool about them is you choose when you cast them and why you cast them. And that's a really good one. I like quite a bit. What's up is down, what's down is up. So basically all the, you look at the futures here and somebody goes, wow, blue, the price goes up, but look, it's got 3 turns in a row of going nothing but down, down, down. So a guy might wait for it to go down 2 turns in a row, buy a bunch of it, and everybody's laughing at you going, you're an idiot. You bought a bunch of owl tears and everybody knows the price is about to go down. Play this spell, and instead of the price going down, it's going to go up, and then you look like a genius. So there's all kinds of ways to kind of manipulate the luck in the game, which is kind of nice. And you got a little interrupt token, which is pretty cool. Because in a lot of games when you see something and somebody's about ready to dump something really bad, in this game you can use your interrupt token and say, whoa, 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 like, time out, before you go do that, I'd like to make a transaction, and I'd like to sell all my owltears before you go kill the owltear market. So,
Cool. How many players is this?
this is 3 or 4.
3 or 4?
Yeah, a lot of people ask us why not 2 players, and we just say, through all the playtesting, 2-player just didn't quite work as well as 3 or 4.
Cool. And how much is this going to retail for?
I believe this game will be $59.99.
Okay. And typical game takes about?
Probably in the 60 to 90 minute range.
Cool. So a little bit of manipulation, but as far as prices go, but a nice little change of pace from just being a stock market.
I think so. I think it's got some clever little things where if you're not really into the stock market or you don't understand how things like splits and whatnot work, I think the fantasy and the light-hearted tongue-in-cheek and the spells make it just light enough. But then those that really like economic games like a Acquire or a Demaker will really find a lot of enjoyment in it.
And who can pass up that great crystal ball?
That's very true.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
And finally, with Mr. B Games, we have Madness at Midnight, a Cthulhu-style competitive game, actually. This looks really interesting. What's exactly the objective of the game?
So this one is kind of a typical Lovecraftian story, but turned upside down. So instead of being like on a team or with investigators or whatever, in this one, the investigators are the pesky nuisances, thorn in our side. We're all cult leaders, and we're trying to raise our Dark One and make the world end the way we want it to end. So I don't want one of you other cults getting in my way. So I want to do all the evil doing my way.
So it's cult versus cult.
You got it.
So how does it play? There's obviously a lot of locations on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's got some pretty cool twists and mechanics. The core of it is around these dice. So you take these action dice and everybody rolls these, a set of theirs on their own at the beginning of the turn. And if you roll any of these investigator dice, you take these guys and you go whoop, over here into this pool. And every time you roll one, you got to put an investigator token into the pool and re-roll the die.
Okay.
If you roll another, like I just did, almost on cue, very magical, you'd have to keep adding these. This is bad because if the investigators get a certain number of tokens in here, they'll go out to one of the locations and seal a gate. If they seal 3 gates, the game's over.
Okay.
So you can re-roll these, you must re-roll these, and sometimes you get some rolls here you maybe weren't crazy about, and you can take madness on your character, on your cult, and re-roll those dice. But if you start taking more madness, you start using all your madness points, then you might need them for other things later. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
So we have some cultists at the different locations. Do they move around, or it looks like they have different things they can do at the different locations?
Absolutely. So some of the things, they all go back to the dice. So if they have a foot icon, then I could say, I'm going to use this die for the 4 movement. And I could move 4 of my cultists 1 square, or 1 cultist 4 squares, or 2 cultists 2 squares, things like that. And I just have to follow the little paths down the road. So to go from the Arkham Sanatorium up to the East Side Church would just cost 1 movement. There's other things like, say I rolled a hand. I could take that hand die, and I could go over here to the Arkham Sanatorium, place it here, and that would allow me to take the action at Arkham. I can only take the actions at locations with hands by spending hands. So sometimes you might not roll any hands, and you might have to spend madness to re-roll because you really want to take some dark actions. Also, if you want to fight with another cult, you need to roll the little fight icon, and you have to go to a location that has that icon and actually have a fight.
Okay. Do the cultists have to be at that location as well?
Yeah, so that's essentially like if I wanted to have a fight, I have to have some cultists present because that's what I'm going to try to do is knock you out.
Gotcha.
And there's a reason why I want to do this, because certain areas, if I have more people than you, I establish control at the location, and I could potentially get a power or a victory point. If I have multiple pieces, I would establish dominance. If I get dominance at a location, I get an even bigger benefit, which is kind of nice.
Cool. And then are those benefits on the cards themselves that are
Yes,
underneath?
and that's the really cool thing about Madness at Midnight is at the beginning of every turn, it's also possible that when it turns midnight, all the locations' powers can change on you. So all of a sudden you were working on this big dark plot to go over the merchant district and do this thing to pound somebody, and it's no longer midnight and you're weak again.
And I see there's like a full moon on that one there, and
Yep.
then a sliver of a moon over there.
Right, so if the moon changes, you would actually have to change all the locations over to the half moon.
I see.
And then that's what's going to change the landscape of the board. Really kind of mixes things up, keeps the replayability quite different.
Very cool.
And then of course there's cool things like at the river dock you can get some you can get magic items. Basically you can find artifacts like the Eye of the Dragon, and then these are all like game breaking type things. You can learn magic at Miskatonic University. This is where you can go learn spells. So like that's a blind a monster spell. It's pretty cool because somebody could move a monster into my location and try to attack me, and I could play a spell and blind his monster, and his monster basically couldn't attack me that turn.
Cool.
So there's all kinds of cool things. Down at the Merchant District, these are different items that you can purchase. So you go down to the Merchant District and grab it, and you can pick up this little item. And what's really cool about the cult board, if you take a look at like these, is as the game progresses, you can start upgrading your leader and make him better. You can start upgrading your actual cultists and make them better, upgrade your monsters, and you can actually become expertise in certain levels. So it's kind of cool. You kind of have a level up mechanic as your cult gets stronger.
Cool. And then what is up with these letters at the bottom corner here? Like,
Oh, I got you. Yeah, so those are plots. So
okay.
that's how you do your bidding. So these are all the different plots, and they're going to give you victory points, which is the key to winning. And so the cool thing with the plots is all of us know what plots are available, but none of us know which one, who's going to fill it.
so is this played to a certain number of victory points? Or
13, yeah.
To
We're gonna
13.
play 13.
Of course.
Of course we are. But there is one slight catch, is that if the investigators do wind up sealing 3 gates before somebody hits 13, then the cult with the lowest score wins.
Interesting.
Because the 2 cults that are high profile get busted by the federal ring. So if you see 2 gates out, and maybe you got one guy at 12 and one guy at 11, and you're way back at 4, it might be in your best interest to watch the investigators seal a gate.
Cool. How many players is this going to be for?
This will be 2 to 4.
2 to 4. Typical game runs 90 minutes?
Yeah, 60 to 90 minutes.
Cool. And it's on Kickstarter right now, probably
Sure is.
released sometime next year.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much for showing me
Thanks,
this.
Keith.